Hello and welcome to the Boardmen Don't Get Paid podcast. We're on to week 8 for our NFL season. Wow, we're halfway through the year, and uh, I'm back on again here doing the solo recap and the cash game plays. So let's just jump right into it because we're a little squeezed on time. So I'll start right off with my cash game lineup for the week. uh, right here up on the screen. I scored 143 and managed to cash in all of my cash games for the 7th straight week. Despite playing Matt Ryan, who got injured halfway through the game against the Rams, he only scored me 4 points, but he was also 40% owned. I thought Matt Ryan was a very solid cash game play. Leonard Fournette was the other really kind of chalky cash game play that you just ate. 87% owned. I played him. Didn't hurt me. Uh, my other running back was Chris Carson, who was only 30% owned, only got me 10 points. That didn't really hurt me. None of these plays really hurt me, but what really helped me out though was I played John Brown at 18%, as you can see right there. Scored 19 points. Getting that kind of production from a low owned cheap guy in a cash game will definitely help you out a lot. And playing Latavius Murray, for some reason he was only 14% owned in cash. I thought he was going to be a lot higher owned. I think a lot of people kind of went with Dalvin Cook, and instead I kind of paid down a little bit to play Latavius. I thought he was in a great spot against, especially with the Kamara injury. He was in a great spot, getting all of the running back snaps. For New Orleans, the Bears defense has been very middling as of recently, and uh, he was the reason why I cashed in all of my cash game plays. I think him scoring 35 points at 14% kind of solidified it, especially with all of the other kind of chalky running backs like Carson not really meeting value. So that's my cash game lineup. That's kind of my thought process behind it. The other players that I played, T.Y. Hilton, you kind of just played him. Thought he was going to be chalky, and he ended up being chalky. He had a very solid floor against Houston with a really good ceiling. Cooper Kupp against Atlanta. That Atlanta secondary has been really bad. The downside to Kupp was that his price was a little bit high, and Goff isn't very good away from home. But 53% owned in cash games didn't hurt me, even if he did bust a little bit. Hunter Henry, 3 yards away from that 100-yard bonus would have been great, but didn't really need it. 15 points against Tennessee, only 38% owned. He helped out a lot too. So, yeah, it was a low scoring week in cash games because of a lot of the chalk busting, but luckily for me, I did roster Latavius Murray, and that kind of solidified my win for the week. Uh, let's talk about some GPP plays now. I know Yash also played a cash game lineup, and his lineup looked very similar to mine. So I guess we won't really go there. But let's talk about Yash's GPP play this week. He scored 156, which was really solid in a GPPs this week. He played Gardner Minshew at 6% owned and ran it back with Leonard Fournette and DJ Chark. Uh, I thought those were really good plays. Cincinnati's been abysmal. He got Chark at really low ownership. Only scored 10 points, which was unfortunate. Fournette got 19 points, 45% owned. I think if I were him, if I was already playing Chark, that would have been my pivot off of Fournette, and I wouldn't have to leverage or play both Fournette and Chalk. And playing Chark would kind of leverage you off of that Fournette chalk. Oh my God. Playing Chark would have leveraged you off of that Fournette chalk. So I think I would have done that a little bit differently if I was him. Might have found another running back to play instead of Fournette if I was going to play Minshew with Chark. Dalvin Cook, 25% owned, great play, scored 30 points, really solid. T.Y. Hilton, another really solid play going up against the Texans. I thought that was a pretty good cash and GPP play. 33% ownership isn't too egregious. I think that's kind of in line with what you would expect for him as a chalk play this week. So no problem playing him. Kenny Golladay, really, really unfortunate for Kenny Golladay. Marvin Jones, I mean, if you told me Detroit put up 30 points, Stafford had God knows how many points he had, uh, but Kenny Golladay only scored 3 points. That's just really unfortunate. Like I played a lot of Kenny Golladay in some of my GPPs, and he didn't get there. He didn't get there for Yush either, and I don't think you can really chalk that up to a bad process play. I think it was just bad luck. Xavier Rhodes has not been good this year. I mean, the Minnesota defense just has not been that good this year, and it's definitely one that you can attack. Um, so just really unfortunate Galladay didn't get there for him. Getting Darren Waller at 9% was very sharp. He was gonna get all of the receiving work with Tyrell Williams out. I know Green Bay has been very good against uh, tight ends, but if you figure that they were going to blow out Oakland and Derek Carr would need it to throw, he has nobody else to throw to but Darren Waller. And only getting him at 9% ownership when all the masses were on a more expensive Mark Andrews or Evan Ingram or whoever else was super chalky. I think the whole questionable designation on Darren Waller helped appreciate his ownership. That was a great play. He played Preston Williams in his flex. I never condone wide receivers in his flex, but getting Preston Williams at 0.3% ownership against like this is just a play that I normally wouldn't make. Um, but I know he plays Preston Williams basically every single time. Preston Williams is basically our mascot for our board men don't get paid football season. Um, 0.3% ownership going against a really good Buffalo defense. I guess the logic behind that is um, if Buffalo is going to dominate Miami, then Miami was going to have to throw to get back into the game, and Preston Williams makes for a good target to throw to, especially if you thought that Tre'Davious White was going to be on Devontae Parker. So yeah, I mean, I guess it worked out. Preston Williams 13 points. Uh, Personally, wouldn't have gone there, but I'm not gonna fault him for it. I think that was solid, and I think he got a little unlucky with the Chargers defense. Maybe that was a homer play, but just chose the wrong defense for the week. And there's no really skill. I mean, I don't think there's skill in choosing the right defense, but so that's why I'm just saying he got unlucky. But 156 is a really solid score on GPPs, and I'm glad he cashed again. I think that he's cashed every week so far this year, so that's great. Moving on to Drew's GPP lineup. This was a really solid team too, 156 points. He played the Josh Allen with John Brown stack. So, I mean, that's a lot better than playing the Josh Rosen by himself play. So I think he learned from last week to kind of make a good solid stack. He got Todd Gurley at really low ownership at 8% against Atlanta. I think there was a lot of red flags coming into the game for Todd Gurley, but when Todd Gurley was basically cleared and he was good to go, he made for a really good contrarian play, knowing that the Rams are favored and that Atlanta is very bad against running backs. The only red flag would be whether or not he was going to split carries with Darrell Henderson. And Todd Gurley didn't really get there, but I see where his logic was, and I think that's a really solid play. He played Josh Jacobs against Green Bay. That was a great play. Green Bay's been really bad against the run. Josh Jacobs basically racked up all of his yardage before Oakland started getting blown out. And if that game was a little bit closer, Derek Carr didn't make all of those mistakes near the red zone, I think Josh Jacobs could have had an even bigger day. I'm just really kind of surprised that 27% of people were also on Josh Jacobs, but I think that's a really solid play. Played T.Y. Hilton. I'm not talked enough about T.Y. Hilton. Good play. But I think he played DeAndre Hopkins to run it back with T.Y. Hilton. Now I think that was pretty sharp. to play DeAndre Hopkins too. If you thought that that game was going to shoot out one way, and then with T.Y. Hilton, then you ran it back with DeAndre Hopkins. 29 points at really low ownership. Like, I think that was solid. Like, that's a great spot for DeAndre Hopkins. Um, yeah, 10% owned. You're not going to see DeAndre Hopkins that low owned again. I will promise you that. I think he was in a great bounce back spot. Hunter Henry, value tight end, 3 yards away from the 100-yard reception bonus. Like I said, solid 17%. Made for a really good tournament play. And he played Robert Woods in flex. Uh, I've got no problem with playing Robert Woods in flex. I think all the masses were on Brandon Cooks, or not Brandon Cooks, but Cooper Kupp in that game. Woods made for a great pivot play away from Cooper Kupp. And yeah, 14% owned, not too egregious. Had himself a solid game, 13 points, and he played the Bears defense. A little bit unlucky they couldn't do more, but that defensive touchdown really saved their day. All in all, a solid day. Booked a win for him too, 157 points in GPP in what was a low scoring week. Is nothing to scoff at. So well done to him. And then my GPP lineup, I scored 168 and managed to book myself a decent win in most of my contests. I had very much the same thought process that Drew had for his lineups too. We basically have all the same players. So he went with the Josh Allen with John Brown stack. Well, I played John Brown, but I went with the Jacoby Brissett with T.Y. Hilton stack, which he also played. I thought that Brissett was going to be low owned. If everybody loved Hilton so much, why wouldn't you like Brissett just as much? He's got to be the one who throws the ball to Hilton, right? So I played Brissett with Hilton. I ran it back the same way that he ran it back with DeAndre Hopkins. Figured if they were going to go up, then Houston would have to play catch up, and DeAndre Hopkins, I thought I was going to get him at low ownership. So I did that. I also played Leonard Fournette, which was the chalk running back, but I figured I was going to go with the low owned, with a few low owned plays like Hopkins and Brissett that I didn't mind eating the chalk there with Fournette, who was in obviously a great spot. Um, might have been a little bit too over eager by adding Marlon Mack. I don't know how he didn't get more points. I thought Indy was kind of feeding him near the end of the game when they were up by so much and they were just trying to run out the clock. But I guess Mack just didn't really convert on any of his clock killing opportunities, so only scored 8 points. Didn't hurt me that much, but it could have been a lot better if I, had another running back there in his spot. Um, yeah, I've also played Hunter Henry, also played Josh Jacobs, and I also played the Bears defense. So it seems like the only difference that him and I had was I played Brissett uh, and Mack, and he played uh, Josh Allen with Robert Woods. And like I said, like I'm never the biggest fan of wide receivers in flex. So I personally like playing running backs in flex, and that's how I kind of constructed this lineup. So it was basically my Indy Houston stack, running it back with a couple of chalky-ish running backs and a chalky-ish tight end, and going with the Bear stack, and it helped me cash for the week. So that's our lineup recap. All in all, we all had a very solid week in a week that was kind of down for most people. I booked my seventh winning week in a row. Hopefully, we can continue that on to week 8. So now on to week 8. We'll talk a little bit about our cash game, or where I'm going to go in cash games this week. Yeah, it's don't forget, you definitely have to monitor injury reports come Sunday. I think a lot of stuff happened as the week went on last week that kind of got you on to certain players or not. The Latavius Murray Alvin news was really big and helped me get onto him when Alvin Kamara was ruled out. And there are definitely situations this week like Keenan Allen and Alvin Kamara and David Johnson that you need to be monitoring closely again this week. So at quarterback, I think a couple of the two cash game plays that I think most people are going to go for are Russ Wilson and Deshaun Watson. They're priced up than they normally are at 7.2 and 7.1, but they're both in great spots, and I think there's enough value at the other positions that allows you to afford them this week. So I don't think I'm going to go too much further than those two. If Matt Ryan is healthy, he's at 6K and he's totally playable, but I don't think he will be. So, but it's like I said, a situation to monitor. To running backs, I think the chalk running backs that are going to be highly owned, and that I also think that you should kind of play this week. Chris Carson is basically the bell cow in Seattle. Not McKissick, but Procise got a couple of snaps in last week, and Rashad Penny only had two. So I think Chris Carson, especially against Atlanta, which is not a very good defense, I think Chris Carson at only 7K, getting all of the carries is where you should kind of go in cash games. I think Leonard Fournette is another one. 7,800 is a little bit too cheap for Leonard Fournette. I think he should be priced way above 8K. The only downside is New York has a pretty solid defense. But 7,800 gets you Leonard Fournette and gets you basically 100% of the running back touches in Jacksonville, and he's due for positive touchdown regression, hopefully. Guy still hasn't sniffed the end zone, getting all of his productions from getting huge chunks of yards. All he needs is that 1 week where he can kind of double dip into the end zone. You're gonna win your cash games. And then the third cash game play, I think those two are going to be very popular. I can see people playing McCaffrey and Barkley if you can afford them. But I think the third cash game play is really going to come down to injury news. I think Chase Edmonds, even against the Saints, is very viable if David Johnson is ruled out. I think Latavius Murray, once again, would be very viable against Arizona if Alvin Kamara ends up being ruled out. And I think Ty Johnson at only 4,900 is a spot that a lot of people are going to go to this week. And I'm probably going to go to there. We already have news that Kerryon Johnson is going to be on the IR. So Ty Johnson is basically going to be the running back in Detroit for the time being until they sign another one to become the bell cow there. But he's getting backed up by J.D. McKissick. I think Ty Johnson is getting at least 60% of the snaps in Detroit. I think McKissick will get passing down snaps. I don't think Ty Johnson is built like a bell cow, but he has a really fast speed, and New York isn't really a defense that I'm afraid of. So I think I'm probably gonna go to Ty Johnson in cash at this moment, but definitely monitor news that could definitely change. Wide receivers, I think. DeAndre Hopkins, I think, is in a great spot against Oakland. We saw what Aaron Rodgers did to Oakland last week, and Deshaun Watson's just as good. DeAndre Hopkins finally had a good week, putting up 28 fantasy points last week, and I think he's once again in a really good spot against Oakland. Wouldn't surprise me if he had somewhere in the 20s again this week. The other cash game play is, I think, Cortland Sutton is a great play this week if you want cheap value for your wide receiver. Manuel Sanders just got traded to San Francisco, and Cortland Sutton becomes the de facto number one in Denver. 5,300 is kind of cheap for a guy who's getting all of Joe Flacco's attention, and now should probably garner even more of the target share in Denver. So I might go that way in cash. Another player who was a little bit too cheap. I think New England has a lot of issues when it comes to their offense. They have a lot of injuries. Josh Gordon was just put on IR, so I think Philip Dorsett will have to step up as the number 2 wide receiver there in New England. Um, I don't know if he's necessarily a cash game play, but at only 4,200, it is really cheap, and I think he's going to get enough targets to be able to make value at 4,200. Um, Other stuff that you should pay attention to this week, I think Tyler Boyd's really cheap, possible cash game play at only 5,100. He's getting like 10 targets every week. He's not really doing much with those targets, but I'm okay rostering a wide receiver getting 10 targets a week. Um, Mike Williams becomes a cash game play if Keenan Allen gets ruled out. He had to sit out of practice this week, and it's really never a good sign if you go from fully practicing to non-practicing. So keep your eye on that. I think those are the main cash game targets. I see the reasoning for Mike Thomas, and someone like T.Y. Hilton, but I don't really know if I want to play those two guys against really good cover corners. Yeah, I think for me, I might lean towards Hopkins, a Sutton, and a third cash game play. Possibly Dorsett, possibly whatever other injury news comes out later in the week. Tight ends. I think Darren Waller makes for a great tight end play this week. 5,900 is still, I think, too cheap for Darren Waller. He's going up against Houston, who's been very solid against tight ends, but Darren Waller, like you said, like you saw last week, he garnered all of Derek Carr's targets with Tyrell Williams out. So if Tyrell Williams is still ruled out again with his plantar fasciitis, I think Darren Waller will make for a great play. And then my other two, I think there's another tight end. Oh man, there's a lot tight end. The pricing for tight end this week is really tight. They're basically all within like 1K. The only one that's a little bit too expensive is George Kittle. But every other tight end that you can play is like grouped up between like 4.9K from Hunter Henry to like 5.9K in Darren Waller. So Ertz, I don't know if I'm going to go there. I think right now it's Waller, pending news. I also like Evan Ingram this week too at only 5,300. He's 1,200 cheaper than he was last week. Sterling Shepard still ruled out, and I'm not really too scared about Detroit defending against Ingram. I think he's in a good bounce back spot. He didn't get poked in the eye. He got poked in the eye last week and had to sit out a few snaps. I don't think he'll be injured this week, so I think Ingram will be good to go. Will be a good bounce back spot for him. Lastly, defenses. I don't care who you roster for defenses this week. Last week I took the Colts and they made value. This week I think Jacksonville is in a good spot at only 2,900. Obviously you can pay up for New England if you want to. Just plug in defense last, and after you fill out your roster. I think that'll do it. Now I'm gonna in a few seconds you'll see me joined by my two co-hosts, and we'll move on to our GPP section of the podcast. See you guys in a sec. All right, and that's it for our recap and cash lineup for the week. And now I'm joined by Yash and Drew to start our GPP portion. How's it going, guys?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. How about you?
Not too bad. You just came back from the Warriors game. How was that?
They got smacked. If those words came out of my mouth in the previous years, you'd be surprised. But no KD. They lost a lot of their depth. Clippers, with Kawhi, and it was a fun game. It was fun to be there. But
yeah, one of these weeks we'll have our NBA episode up. We start a pod once a week recapping NBA and fantasy stuff regarding NBA. But Now is not the time. Maybe we'll start next week. Recap week 1 of NBA. That'd be pretty cool.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
All right. But as for now, we're doing NFL. We're on to week 8 GPP lineups. And Drew, who you got at your QB this week?
I am going with chalky Deshaun Watson this week. Aaron Rodgers just completely shredded my poor Raiders. They just traded, in my opinion, their best cornerback. And Deshaun Watson, I think right before they go into a bye week, he's going to have one of those insane 35-point games. I'm going with Deshaun Watson. I'm probably going to stack him with either Kenny Stills or DeAndre Hopkins this week.
Yeah, I think that's a great play. Oakland's been surprisingly pretty good against the run this year. So I think a way to beat them is through the air, just like Aaron Rodgers showed last week with his, 5 passing TDs and 1 rush touchdown?
I don't know if they're actually good against the run or if they're just so bad against the pass that people just opt to do that instead.
You'd think, right? I mean, that, or I also think maybe they're they're down by so much that they know the other team's running the ball, so they are able to stop the run too.
Yeah, it's a game flow type of thing. But
yeah,
I don't know. That defense is still abysmal. I mean, yeah, I think Deshaun Watson's gonna have a huge game this week.
And you talked how they traded away Conley now, right?
Yeah, Garyon Gonley, as Lake said the other day to me.
And so he's basically with Houston now, and he's probably feeding Houston Oakland's defensive schemes, right? Is that how it works?
That's how it works. He's a really good player. I think he's going to be a good fit for them because they run a lot of man, and that's what he did at Ohio State. And he didn't really get the opportunity to do that with the Raiders as much as he would have liked, and now he gets to go to a place where they can utilize him properly. It's probably going to be a beast, and it'll be another situation where the Raiders messed up. But it's cool. I'm used to it.
I mean, even as bad as you guys have messed up, you guys are still second in the division, right?
Yeah. Amongst the trash around us, we're second.
Nice. Yash, what about you? Or unless you have another QB pick, or are you going with one
I'm going to
this week?
stick with one QB and one tight end this week. I'm going to do it differently.
Wow, okay.
Not give a bunch of options. Just going to stick with one.
That's a pretty bold conviction. Yeah, let's go with Yash. Who's your one QB pick this week? Or 2 if you want.
All right, so we're going with this is our GPP play, right? So, I really like Jameis Winston this week. Tampa came out and said that they were trying to move on from Jameis. I think that's going to light a fire in his ass, and he's going to come out swinging. He's going to prove him wrong.
Isn't that Titans defense a little worrisome though, or no?
Nah, there's nothing to be worried about the Titans defense. If it was a Patriots defense, yeah. If it was, if it was a Patriots defense, yeah. But Titans, come on now. No.
Yeah, I think
Jameis is going to be Jameis.
I think Winston's going to be really low owned. So from a really contrarian perspective, I think that's a good play. I feel like the Titans defense is pretty good though. That doesn't worry you at all. I think there are other plays below 5.9K who are in better spots. But
yeah, I mean, if you want 5.9K, I mean, Teddy Bridgewater is obviously in a good spot. You could go with like someone like Brissett, maybe, but I think Winston's shown to have he could put up a lot of yardage. You obviously get that 300 plus passing yard bonus in DraftKings, and he also has 2 elite receivers on his side.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee's favored, so if Tennessee does go up, then you can expect Winston to air it out third, fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And they don't really have a run game to really speak of, so I can definitely see Winston accumulating a lot of yards.
Yep.
Yeah, and you're going to get him in low ownership.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are going to be leaning towards like Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson or like even Josh Allen. So Winston's my pick for this week. Hopefully I get him at sub 5%.
Uh, I guess for me, I mean, do you have anything to add to Jameis Winston, Drews?
I think this is a good week to pay up at QB. Pretty juicy matchups for some of the top guys. Jameis Winston. I think I really do think the Titans have a good defense, so I won't be going there personally. But I can understand it from an ownership and want to separate from everyone else perspective. But I'd rather. I mean, we're week 8 in the season now. We kind of know which defenses are there to attack and which aren't. And I don't know if I want to attack the Titans defense personally.
Well, you know which defense I want to attack with my QB?
I think I do, but go ahead, tell us.
Are you sure you know?
Yeah, I think I do.
Take a guess. Which one am I going for?
Which defense are you trying to attack?
Yeah.
The Buccaneers?
That would be a great play, I think, but I'm going even more contrarian than that. I think Tannehill might actually garner some ownership because he's a 5.1K and he looked really good last week, and Buccaneers secondary sucks. So I have no problem going to Tannehill, but what about the defense that made Tannehill look really good last week?
Oh wow. You going that bold?
So twice a year, Mitch Trubisky wins you the Millionaire Maker. And I don't know. I have a feeling that this is going to be the one where he's going to be 0% owned. People are talking about how bad he is because of how, literally how bad he is. Because of how bad he is. He's been terrible this year, but he hasn't really used his legs yet. I know last week he was kind of favoring that shoulder a little bit, but I think with 1 week to recover, that shoulder might be a little bit healthier. He might start using his legs more. And Chargers defense, really, they've been giving up a lot. Last week they made Ryan Tannehill look like Aaron Rodgers, so. I only wonder what Mr. Trubisky has in store for us this week.
So you're changing the name of the show to the Bold Man Gets Paid podcast? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, 4,900. Like, Mr. Trubisky has let's say 40-point upside. Is that even fair?
I mean, if he gets those rush yards, maybe.
Yeah. I think he had 4 games last year with more than 35 fantasy points or something.
Are you just secretly rooting for this to happen because you picked him up in season long as well?
Yeah, and I think this is a week to use him. I think if there's any week that Mr. Trubisky can get you one of his ceiling games, it's this week where he's basically going to be owned by 0 people and he's only 4,900, which helps you free up salary for other places as well. So even if he only gets 15 points at 4,900, that's still pretty good.
Doesn't hurt you.
So yeah, I'm going with Mr. Trubisky this week, and I'm probably going to get him
with my favorite receiver.
Yeah, I think we can talk about that come receiver, and if I don't mention him, I think Allen Robinson would be a great stack with Mitch Trubisky. The only problem is Casey Hayward is probably going to shadow Allen Robinson, I'm guessing.
The thing is, he's been shadowed some good corners, and he's shredded all of them.
Yeah, and the thing with Allen Robinson is he doesn't really burn people. He just uses his size and boxes them out and gets jump balls, and I think that's very possible against Casey Hayward.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very bold.
Anything to add to that, Yash, since I'm targeting a QB against your defense?
Just that we're pretty torn up on defense. We've got quite a few critical injuries on defense. So, but it is a good strategy, so I'll give you that. I wanted to roster Derrick Henry last week just because our defense has been pretty beaten up. So it's not a bad strategy. I'll give you that, Lawrence.
All right. Moving on to our running back picks. Drew, who you got this week?
So let's see. For my first running back, I will be taking the defense which I love to attack as far as running backs, which is the Broncos defense. I will be taking Mr. Marlon Mack, and I will be stacking him with the Colts defense this week. So that's going to be my first running back. I think he's in a good bounce back spot. I expect Indianapolis to win this game comfortably, and that means a lot of work in store for Mr. Marlon Mack. My next pick is probably going to add on to the bold man gets paid theme that you just started with Mitch Trubisky. We're going to speak it into existence. This is the week that Melvin Gordon actually has a good game. He just came off from that horrible, disappointing F up at the 1 yard line 3 times. And the last 2 games, Latavius Murray and Josh Jacobs have absolutely destroyed this Chicago Bears defense. So let's fire up Melvin Gordon this week at 5,400, where he's priced in the same range as guys like Royce Freeman and Philip Lindsay and other not great names. I'm gonna go there this week.
I think that's very bold, and I think you're going to get him at extremely low ownership. He's priced cheaper than Eckler is now, and I think people will more want to gravitate towards rostering Eckler over Gordon if they just look at the game logs. I think that's bold and could totally pay off if he does exactly what you think he does. I think the downside is if the Chargers management kind of realizes, hey, maybe we shouldn't play Melvin Gordon because he's literally cost us like 3 games already and give all the running back carries to Eckler. Do you see that happening at all?
I think they would have already done this at that point. Like they've had 3 full games and they still haven't. And it seems to me, I haven't looked at like the snap count as far as like where people are lining up, but doesn't it seem like Eckler's been lining up at slot like pretty frequently now? Like, I don't know. I saw the end of that Titans game and it seemed like every play Eckler was in the slot in the fourth quarter.
No, he played more as a wide receiver. So
yeah.
I mean, he had that beautiful like 30-yard
touchdown was awesome.
40-yard touchdown reception.
That sealed the deal in my matchup against Mr. Lawsu. So I was very happy with that. But yeah, I digress. Those will be my 2 running backs this week: Melvin Gordon and Marlon Mack.
Yeah, I think both players are going to be pretty low owned. Like you said, Denver's run defense has been pretty abysmal so far this year. I think as of recently, I think the defense has been playing a lot better the last couple of weeks. But still, as a home favorite, I think Marlon Mack can definitely be a very low owned play that helps you win a GPP this week.
And I'm not even going to mention the defense when we get to the defense section because I'm just going to tell you my stack. I'm stacking Marlon Mack and Colts defense this week, so that's my
there
defense.
You go. You're not scared for a bounce back for Joe Flacco?
All he has to do is complete 1 pass and he'll already have a bounce back. So it's not really saying anything.
All right, so you got Mack and Melvin Gordon. Yash, who do you have for your running backs this week?
All right, so first running back, I'm going back to the Chris Carson well. They're playing Atlanta. Atlanta's just been, I mean, if you're trying to score points, there's no better place than Atlanta. So there's a very good chance that Seattle gets up early and they run the ball a lot more in later stages of the game. I think he'll have a good time feasting against this Atlanta defense. So Carson, he did have a disappointing game last week, but I think it's a good bounce back opportunity for him. My second running back is actually James White. And this guy has been averaging 9 targets a game in the last 4 games. And he's been basically, I think, every game he's been catching all but one or 2 targets. If you count that towards DraftKings PPR scoring, that's basically a point per reception. He's getting 7 to 8 points just off receptions only. And that's not even counting the yardage and the potential touchdowns. So he's actually like their second best receiver on the team. I'm not sure how that's going to result or how that's going to be affected with Mohamed Sanu, but I don't think it'll be that much of a problem. He's clearly one of Brady's favorite targets, and against a Cleveland defense, I think he's going to do well. He's only at 5,100, so all he needs is about like 15 to 20 points to hit value. So, and I think I'm going to fire him up this week. If he can get a couple touchdown receptions, it'll be great. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
think Chris Carson's a good play. I just want to mention, like, I think last week Rashad Penny only had like what 3 carries. Like Chris Carson has the lead back role like all to himself. And yeah, against Atlanta, we don't know if they're starting Matt Ryan or Matt Schaub yet. And if it's Matt Schaub, I don't think he's very good at this age, at his this time in his career. I don't know how old he is now. He's probably like 40.
well, crazy stat. The last time he started for Atlanta was in like 2006.
Jesus.
That's before he was on the Texans. So this dude
Yeah.
is 38 or 39 years old. He's real old.
So that game could totally get out of hand if Matt Ryan's unable to suit up. And from what I hear, he has a high ankle sprain, and that's totally possible. So if Seattle can get out to a lead, then Chris Carson's going to take him home.
Yeah.
And then the who was the second play?
James White.
James White. Yeah. James White, I think, will get a lot more opportunity. I don't think Sanu is going to get a full complement of snaps. Josh Gordon's out. I do think one of the bigger beneficiaries might be Julian Edelman too. But yeah, you're right. James White, he has like a floor of 10. My whole thing about James White is I just don't know if the upside is there. Yeah, he has like a floor of 10, but I think his ceiling is like 12.
Yeah, he's pretty consistent. Like,
and you're just hoping he breaks out like a big one, gets a touchdown, and gets you like 15 to 20. Because it's hard for me to see James White scoring like even just 21 to 25 points. But I guess at 5K, you don't really need that kind of upside. But yeah, I think you can get James White at super low owned this week. Might be like less than 5%. But yeah, like you said, those PPR, he's just getting like 7 to 10 targets every single game. So yeah, you're kind of hoping he just gets a touchdown, breaks a long one, breaks like a 30-yard TD, and you're good to go for the week. And you get him at like 2% ownership. So I think those are 2 really good GPV plays.
Yeah. Just want to make a real quick note too. Just monitor the Saints situation, and if Kamara is out again, I think it's safe to fire up Latavius Murray too. So just a small side note.
You have anything to add about those running backs, Struve?
Carson and James White.
Yeah.
I like Carson. Yeah, I mean that game seems like it is going to get out of hand, and that would, seem to indicate that Chris Carson's going to get a huge workload, 25 plus carries, probably not out of the question. James White, I think, yeah, it's a great contrarian option. I don't have a problem with either one of those plays, honestly. So those are solid.
Yeah, and for me, I just kind of want to preface this by saying that continue to monitor injury information, just like Yash said. One of the bigger ones is going to be David Johnson this week. If he can't go, I mean, you saw what Chase Edmonds did last week. Against the Saints, might not be as profitable. But still, if he's getting like 100% of the touches with that kind of explosiveness, 6,200 still too cheap for Chase Edmonds if he's going to be that involved in the passing game as well. But yeah, I guess where I'm going to go this week is I'm going to play a very contrarian Christian McCaffrey this week as my running back. Yeah, his price is extremely high, but it's still Christian McCaffrey. I think nobody really wants to play him against San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, well deserved because that San Francisco defense is really good. But I think one of the best ways to neutralize a really good pass rush is with the running game. If you can kind of like get them out wide, kind of keep them at bay by showing that you're going to run the ball, Christian McCaffrey is like the perfect weapon to use to kind of put the put a little bit of pressure off of Kyle Allen. So I think Christian McCaffrey at 9,200. He's an elite talent. He's been the best running back this year, and even against Tampa Bay a couple weeks ago, he still put up a decent score. And Tampa Bay's been the best rush defense all year.
It's a
Yeah,
homecoming
so
for him, Mr. Stanford.
yeah, Stanford. There's the narrative right there. Christian McCaffrey going back to Stanford. So that's my first running back for the week. My second running back for the week is going to be, and I don't really want to go here, but I'm going to anyway, but it's going to be David Montgomery. I think I guess I'm just playing everybody against the Chargers.
So
yeah, no.
that
Yeah.
one's interesting because you have the quarterback. So do you not think that those will cancel each other out a little bit, or?
I think they could. But I also think that if David Montgomery was priced at like 6K, then probably wouldn't have both of them. But the fact that Trubisky is like only 5K and David Montgomery is only 4.4K, like even if they don't have to, do much to meet value individually. So I'm totally okay playing David Montgomery, and he does make he does catch the ball too. So if just one of those catches goes for a touchdown, I think that's great. But yeah, he's only 4,400. I think Trubisky has a 4 touchdown ceiling, but I also think Montgomery has like a couple of touchdowns in him too against the Chargers, and I think Montgomery at only 4,400 is super cheap. They like going to him at the 1 or 2 yard line. Like I've seen him get like a million carries trying to get the ball into the end zone from the 1 or 2 from inside the 5. And yeah, 4,400, nobody's going to be on him because he got like -1 point last week or something awful.
Recency bias.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm cool with David Montgomery going against the Chargers. I guess I'm just high on this Chicago offense.
For the week.
You guys, for the week. You guys have anything you want to say?
I mean, Trubisky has been throwing the ball like 50. I mean, he's thrown the ball 50 plus times, like 3-4 times this season already. So, I mean, for your sake, hopefully David Montgomery, is involved more in the offensive game plan for Chicago.
Yeah, I hope so too.
I mean, like for me, it's a bit of a conflict of interest. If Chicago's running the ball more, that means they're probably up. So
yeah, and I think the thing too last week was David Montgomery just kind of got phased out of like the comeback from Chicago because they were down so much. There was no need to establish the run when you're down like 25. But here as a home favorite, if Trubisky, puts them up, maybe they kill the clock with David Montgomery. So yeah, that's my running back. Those are my running back plays for the week.
Do we have consensus Ty Johnson fade? None of us mentioned him.
I'm
good without him.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I like Ty Johnson this week. I mentioned him in my cash game play. I think at 4,900 in his opportunity, he's going to be pretty good. I don't know yet if I want to fade him in GPPs, but I do know if I do fade him, I'm probably going to go with David Montgomery in his place. 4,900, he's only going to get first and second down carries. I don't think he's going to get more than 60% of the workload. But the thing is, 60% of the carries against the Giants defense that's pretty valuable. And Ty Johnson has like 4.3 40 speed. So if he just breaks one, he's making value with a 40-yard TD run. So
got it. I'm gonna fade because I think the hype is real right now on him, and I think he's gonna garner a lot of ownership. So I'm gonna go elsewhere.
Yeah, I think he's definitely fadeable, but I don't think it's the same as like a Malcolm Brown fade going against the Niners defense at
Giants
more expensive.
Can be had.
Yeah, I guess we'll monitor that as the week goes on. It's tough. I'm at this moment, I'm kind of inclined to want to fade him or to play him, but I think you two kind of want to fade him. So, uh, my question to you is, if you fade him, where are you guys going to find that value that he provides?
At 49.
Yeah,
Well,
because
I mean,
if you fade him,
So let's say he's your flex, right?
hmm
So if you're playing your third running back,
hmm
I mean, if you're talking about running backs and just screen passes, like why not Tarek Cohen at 4,700?
you could play,
You
but
could stack both Montgomery and
I won't be
Cohen.
going for running backs in that range. I mean, I guess for me, Melvin Gordon at 500 more is more enticing to me personally.
that's fair. Uh, yeah, I think he could definitely make for a game theory GPP fade. And you just kind of hope he doesn't get there if he becomes super chalk. I think if by Sunday he's garnering, if I project him for more than like 40% owned, maybe I'll try I'll fade him there. But if he's only like 20%, 15 to 20, I'll probably just play him. It's the same thing with Latavius Murray last week. Like Latavius Murray by Sunday was projected for only like 10% ownership, which I thought was insane. Like earlier in the week, I thought if he was going to be chalked like 30 or 40%, I was going to fade him.
Mhm.
But then, like, come Sunday, I saw he was probably going to be about 10% owned. I'm like, all right, well, if nobody's going to play him, I'm going to play him. Yeah,
Cool.
well, yeah, it's definitely going to be an ownership type decision for me come Sunday. Moving on to wide receivers. Drew, who you got?
I've been taking this guy pretty much every week. I'm going to do it again this week. I'm going to take Cortland Sutton. This guy's been extremely consistent. Double-digit fantasy points in all but one game this year. Now he's the clear number one on that team. Despite Joe Flacco's woes, Cortland Sutton it was already getting a heavy target share. Now that may even go up. I project this game against the Colts to be a heavy loss for them, so I think that correlates to him getting a lot more work than even normal. And I think at 5,300, that's a home run for Cortland Sutton.
I like that.
Next play will likely be chalky just because of what we saw Aaron Rodgers do, but I'm going to stack DeAndre Hopkins with Deshaun Watson this week. The Raiders are starting a rookie cornerback this week, and the other cornerback, Daryl Worley, has been getting burned like crazy the past few weeks. And as you know, I follow my team pretty closely. I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to have a monster day this weekend. Might be one of those where he becomes a must-have. So I'm definitely going to take DeAndre Hopkins this week at 8,100.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you there. I like him. Any thoughts about that, Josh?
So you had Hopkins and
Sutton.
Sutton. Yeah, I like Sutton. So since Emmanuel Sanders is off, he's the number one. So I like Sutton. And I mean, Hopkins, no Will Fuller. So it's going to be him, Kenny Stills, and Kuti, right?
Yeah. The only thing that I don't like about Hawkins is that he's been trashed this whole year, and yet his salary is like still 8,100.
Yeah.
He had a
So
great
there's
game
no
last
reason
game.
why he should be more than Michael Thomas.
I think it's priced into the fact that Michael Thomas is going to be covered by Patrick Peterson all game this week.
Yeah. But it's like
I mean,
Hopkins has gotten like 15 fantasy points every single game, and now this is the most he's been priced all year. So,
Well, last week he got 29. So
one good
okay.
game.
So this is what I like. If you actually look at the pricing, Michael Thomas actually dipped down to 6,500, and that's when he broke off for his like 48-point game.
yeah, that was the week that I think all of us had him. So
Yeah. So there's no reason why DeAndre Hopkins should be consistently priced in the upper. I mean, maybe it's a Teddy Bridgewater effect, or maybe it's just he wasn't getting enough targets, or I don't know. But there's no reason why Michael Thomas should be priced below DeAndre Hopkins. He's clearly proven himself after 7 weeks to be the more consistent and productive wide receiver.
Do you think Michael Thomas outscores DeAndre this week?
I mean, I'm not because they're playing against a trash Oakland secondary. So no, I'm
Oh,
not
I
going
was, I was, man, I wanted another Boba.
But there's also the chance that DeAndre Hopkins could put up 35 and Michael Thomas could put up 34 or whatever.
I don't see Michael.
I'm just saying that Hopkins has been like I'm reiterating Lawrence's point. He's always been so priced so high, even though he's been
His price has not been consistent with his production.
Yeah, DraftKings has been pretty efficient with the pricing this year. I think that's. I think I'm just bitter that I couldn't get Hopkins at like 6,800 because that's more of what his production has been this year. But
yeah,
I think I'm probably gonna pay up 8,100 for Hopkins this week too.
I think he's worth it this week.
Yeah.
So I'll be going.
What's crazy is that they've barely priced up Chris Godwin.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask you, what were your wide receiver picks this week?
So actually, it wasn't going to be Chris Godwin.
Oh, it wasn't. Okay.
But
I thought you were going Winston.
Well, it wasn't going to be Chris Godwin. It was going to be Mike Evans. I think people are going to be sleeping on Mike Evans, and they're going to look at Chris Godwin's last 3 games. They're going to be like, "Oh, like this guy is definitely like going to go off." They're going to play the recency bias, but I think Mike Evans is in a great spot to sneak away as to have another big game against Tennessee defense. I don't think Malcolm Butler is going to be on him. Well, actually, I don't know. It's either a boon or mainly it's a boon if you have Malcolm Butler on you because he gambles a lot, and you could get a 20-yard reception and get another 50 yards after the catch if you have him on you. So, but just to reiterate, I'm gonna stick with Mike Evans over Godwin this week. My second wide receiver is going to be John Brown. Philadelphia has a trash secondary, as Lawrence so kindly pointed out a few weeks ago, and it's been the weak point to target against the Eagles.
Yep.
So I think at 5,900. He's definitely like in a great spot. That Buffalo receiving core, they get a lot of players involved. So you could have I know like Cole Beasley gets involved. They have like 2-3 other players that are heavily involved in that offense. So there's obviously a risk there, but I think just against Philadelphia, it's too good to pass up. And my final play is Mike Williams at 4,000. That's a very low price for a guy. Yeah, that's a very low price for a guy that has like 30-point potential. I may be exaggerating there, but this guy is. He
needs 30 points if you want to win your Boba bet.
Yeah,
I think he needs like 60 a week to do that.
That is true, but Keenan Allen is injured, and obviously I think Chicago is going to be targeting on him, and they're going to be game planning for Hunter Henry. So I think Mike Williams is going to fly under the radar, and he's going to have a breakout game. He's had a lot of nagging injuries this year, but I think this is the game where he's going to pull through for the Chargers. So
I wasn't considering,
and obviously. I gotta say it. Preston Williams. If I could roster you, man, I could roster you. I may play the Monday night showdown.
How much money are you gonna lose on Preston Williams before you stop rostering Preston Williams?
How much money have I lost rostering Preston Williams, man? I've actually won. I think except for 1 week, I've won every single week.
I don't think it was because of Preston Williams. To be fair, I don't think it was because of him.
Preston Williams
won in spite of him.
You know what? No, it's not even in spite of him. He's just been a good luck charm. He's just been, and he hasn't. His floor has been like 8 or 9 points. So you know what? I may have to make a special accommodation. I may have to play Monday night showdown just so I can play Preston Williams and make him my captain. He's going to be my captain.
On this podcast by the end of the season, it's going to be a huge disappointment.
All right. Well, Yush is in charge of our marketing efforts, so
we'll get him. I'll get him. I'll get
You'll
him.
get him?
I'll get him.
I like
We'll
your
get
Mike
him.
Williams pick, actually. I think you actually kind of sold me on that right now. That might be my third wide receiver. I like that.
He's just low
Price.
price. That's too good to pass up, I feel.
Yeah, I think especially with the Keenan Allen injury, we definitely have to monitor that come Sunday. If Keenan Allen is hurt and isn't playing, then guess we're firing up Mike Williams, right? Like that's just a
Yeah.
lock and load play at 4,000 if Keenan Allen's hurt.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And if you're following your logic, like if you're playing Chicago running backs, you're expecting Chicago to be up,
Yeah.
and if that's the case, then the Chargers will need to pass. So
I have zero problem with those plays. I like them all. For me this week, my first wide receiver that I'm going to roster is actually going to be Kenny Stills. Drew rostered Hopkins. I'm going for the guy that has the home run upside against Oakland. Stills is fast. Stills is 4,700, and all he needs to do is break a long one for a touchdown, and he's helping me cash for the week. And
Mills
then
is going to be the Fuller.
Yeah, he's going to be the Fuller. I think with Fuller out, he got basically all of Fuller's snaps. Kuti is still going to be kind of that short intermediate route guy, and Hopkins is still going to be Hopkins. But yeah, I definitely think that, like Drew said, the corners in Oakland are burnable, and I think Stills has the speed to burn them deep, especially if they kind of keep dinking and dunking it and then just kind of go for a home run. I think it's definitely possible. I think he's going to get at least 2 or 3 chances of a home run play, and I just need one of those or 2 of those to connect, and I'm good for the week. Then my second wide receiver play this week is going to be Corey Davis. Kind of mentioned Ryan Tannehill, but Tannehill really, he definitely looked for Corey Davis last week and kind of made him look good. I think Corey Davis is a great talent. I know last year he had flashes of brilliance, and now he finally doesn't have an immobile QB that's just checking it down every time we're getting sacked. Now Ryan Tannehill is the hyped man, gonna save the Tennessee Titans season, and Corey Davis is gonna be a big beneficiary of Ryan Tannehill at QB. 4,400, he doesn't have to do much, and he gets the Tampa Bay secondary, which just has been absolute trash this year. I think he has 20, 30-point upside, which he's shown last year and kind of flashed a little bit last week. Thoughts, guys?
I like it. I like both.
I like them. So you had Corey Davis and you had Kenny Stills?
Yep. We're going very bold men this week with my picks.
I like it. So, I mean, and those plays allow you to pay up for CMC. So.
Yeah, so I've basically given you guys all pretty much super cheap plays. And these are the kind of cheap plays that I'm looking for this week. Tight ends, Drew, who you got?
So tight end is a position that I'm monitoring the injury report for. Because there's 2 tight ends that actually I'm looking at that I like, but both of them are holding a questionable tag right now. So I wanted to give one, but since they're both questionable, I count them as half, so I'll just give them both. And I would advise, again, to monitor the situation. Don't lock these people in, but these are 2 that I like for the price. I like Jared Cook at 4,000 if he plays. I think Patrick Peterson is going to be on Michael Thomas all game. That's a big factor. Who's going to get the passing game involvement when that happens? I think Jared Cook is going to be that guy. Tight ends have exposed the Cardinals all season, and I think Jared Cook would do that if he played. My second pick is Chris Herndon, who was a limited participant in practice this week, 3,500. I think once he gets on the field, it's going to be all systems go. Sam Darnold loves passing to this guy, and when he gets in the open field, he doesn't look like a slow tight end. He looks like a receiver out there. He makes
good.
moves. He's agile.
He's really good.
Yeah, so I think Chris Herndon at 3,500 is a really good price because he's going to be, if he was healthy and playing a full season, he'd be in that 5K plus range. So the talent's definitely there, and the involvement would be there if he actually played. So those are my two, if they play.
I like him. Are you not afraid that Cook has just been absolute garbage all year?
He hasn't been absolute garbage all year. The last two games that he played, he hit double digits. So I wouldn't say he's been absolute garbage all year. Plus, Drew Brees is expected to be back. I think it's a little easier to. I mean, Bridgewater has been playing well, but I think it's a little easier to catch passes from Drew Brees. And again, once your first, pass option, Michael Thomas, is taken away, naturally you're gonna have to look for someone else. And I think Jared Cook would be that guy this week.
Yeah, I mean, he's been bad. I mean, he's got two good games, and I think the only reason he got double digits was because of touchdowns. But like you said, Patrick Peterson will be on Michael Thomas, and Teddy Bridgewater likes checking down, and Jared Cook would probably be the check down option for him.
And there's only been one tight end that's had a bad game against the Cardinals this year, right? I mean, Evan Ingram, we're not going to count him because he got hurt, like you said. Brett Ellison ended up actually having a decent game.
Yeah, tight ends still do well against them. I think Arizona remains the worst team against tight ends. So
yeah, so I think there's something there.
Yeah. Yash, who you got?
So I'm going to play it safe and go with Austin Hooper. Without Sanu there, and I think tight ends are a favorite target for like backup quarterbacks. I feel like second string quarterbacks that are in because the primary quarterback has sustained an injury, and because they're a safety net. It's not like you have to throw downfield 20, 30 yards to your primary receiver. You could just run a quick slant route or like a short fade to find your tight end. And so Hooper has been pretty consistent this entire year. He's going up against Seattle. I'm expecting Atlanta to be passing the ball a lot, but it's not going to be the downfield threats. It's going to be the short dump offs to Devontae Freeman or the quick routes to Austin Hooper. Their O-line is pretty trash, and you saw it with in the last game. Matt Ryan was constantly getting pressured. So, and Matt Schaub is 38. He can't be running. The last time I saw him play was like when he was running like play actions to Andre Johnson on the Texans. I didn't even know this dude was in the fucking league anymore. So, he's not going to be mobile. He's going to be staying in the pocket, and basically you're going to be seeing a lot of Hooper and Devontae Freeman involved in this passing game. And so I'm definitely going with Hooper at 5,500.
Yeah, I think Hooper's good. I think there are definitely red flags with Hooper, though. The whole backup quarterback. I don't know. We don't know how effective Matt Schaub is or will be. Matt Ryan loves targeting Hooper in garbage time, and he gets a lot of attention from him. If Matt Schaub only throws like 200 yards, like I don't know how much he's gonna throw. Like I don't know how good Matt Schaub is at this point in his career, but he's only throwing for 200 yards. I don't know how much of that yardage is gonna go around for Atlanta receivers. But the bright side is like Seattle's been really bad against tight ends. I think they're like the third worst team against tight ends this year. And Atlanta has a tight end who's now going to get more targets because Sanu's traded. So yeah, who knows? There's upside and downside. And 5,500 is a little bit pricey for him. But yeah, they have a high expected points total. For some reason, I still see them at 24 implied points, even with the. Yeah, so I guess they don't know yet if Schaub is in or out. I guess we definitely have to monitor that situation come Sunday. But yeah, I do like Hooper as a play. For me,
I think by Saturday we'll see.
Yeah, we'll find out. For me, I'm going back to the well with Evan Ingram. He had a disappointing week last week. He's 5,300, which is like 1,200 cheaper than he was last week against Arizona. A lot of people are gonna game log watch and maybe not want to be on Evan Ingram, but Sterling Shepard's going to be out again this week. Ingram is probably going to get the targets again. And hopefully, Daniel Jones has really regressed after having 2 really good games to begin his career. Hopefully more but I think a lot of it too is him and Ingram don't really have the practice time together. As soon as Jones kind of got integrated into the offense, Ingram got himself injured. So hopefully with a couple more practices under the belt, they can kind of develop the chemistry. And I think 5,300 is just too cheap for Evan Ingram. And I have one more tight end that I kind of want to mention. Going to give a special shout out to Darren Waller, who kind of helped me cash all of my games last week. And I think 5,900, even against the Texans defense, is still way too cheap for Darren Waller. I think, especially if Tyrell Williams is going to be ruled out. The Packers defense is still very good against tight ends, and Darren Waller still managed to put up 34 or so fantasy points on them last week. And I think if Tyrell Williams is going to be out, Waller has way too much opportunity, and I think another ceiling game is in play against the Texans, especially if you kind of assume the Texans are going to turn this game into a shootout, and Derek Carr is going to run it back with Darren Waller.
Fair.
Yeah. Any thoughts on those guys? Are we good?
No, I like that. I think Ingram is definitely in a bounce back spot. So.
All right. Defense. You've already kind of touched on him wanting to play the Colts defense. You're really not afraid of Joe Flacco?
Is that a serious question?
Yeah, I guess Darius Leonard back kind of helps them out too. Joe Flacco is going to get some ints, or is prone to throwing interceptions, and 2,900 is definitely very cheap. So I do like the Colts play, especially if you want to stack with Marlon Mack. Stack Mack with the Colts. And yeah, the Colts have good upside. They were the chalk defense last week, and they played really well against Houston. That O-line for Denver is just brutal. I don't know if it's the O-line or Flacco, but they're both pretty brutal.
The only thing they got going on right now is Cortland Sutton. That's it.
Royce Freeman, come on.
He's all right.
Yash, who you got for your defense this week?
Yeah, so I'm paying all the way up, and I'm going with the Pats defense.
Okay. Solid.
That's you're playing against Baker, turnover-prone Mayfield.
It's a very expensive investment for a defense, though.
I think there's a lot of my picks have been like value picks. Like I really haven't paid up a lot on my GPP plays, and so I have a few extra dollars to spare. The Pats defense wasn't there last week because they were a primetime game on Monday night.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you want, like, if I wasn't playing the Pats defense, then I'd probably go Seattle.
Solid.
But I'm paying up for. Actually, you know what? Nah, just fuck it. If I wasn't paying up for the Pats, I'd go with Seattle. So I'll stick with that.
All right. Well, looks to me here, there's 4 defenses below 2K. Last week, I believe I made a Boba bet with Drew that I cashed in on. Anybody want any takers this week? I get my choices of 2 defenses that are going to get top 50% in points this week that are below 2K. And I think, which 2 am I going for this week?
I'll consider the bet depending on which 2 you choose.
I'm going with Oakland and Arizona.
I'm going to stay away from this. That's because
we give the people what they want.
Is there, so.
We give the people what they want. I'm not going to back down from this bet. I'm doing it.
All right. 50%. I think, honestly, like last week just proved defenses, like, did any defense go off last week? I don't think so, right? Oh, I think the Saints defense did.
The Pats. That was Monday.
No, but like for Sunday.
Yeah.
Sunday games.
Like it really, it's really just a coin flip. Like you flip a 20-sided coin and hope you land on the right defense that gets you like a defensive touchdown for the week. And I think with Patrick Peterson back, he is definitely capable of getting a defensive touchdown for Arizona. And like Deshaun Watson takes like 10 sacks. I think it's totally possible that a 1,500 Oakland defense can sack him, sack, fumble. I mean, yeah, they don't generate pass rushes or their pass rush, but I feel like that's one of those like immovable object meets unstoppable force, except the other way around. Like really movable object. Huh?
Our pass rush is anemic.
Yeah, man. If they only had that one dude.
Dude, don't do.
Who was he?
Right
Who's that? Chicago.
Yes.
Khalil Jack. Is that his name?
I'm already rostering a Mac. It's already in my face. You don't have to just stop.
So, I mean, 2 weeks ago, Oakland defense put up 8 points, had 4 sacks of Mr. Trubisky. I totally think 4 sacks of Deshaun Watson is totally in play this week.
It wasn't Mr. Trubisky, by the way.
Sorry, yeah, it was Chase Daniel, which is even worse.
Maybe better.
And they only gave up 21 points that game. They might give up 49 this game.
They could. I see their Vegas total at about 29 for Houston, so hoping they stay under the 30-point mark, and so I won't get those negative 3 points or whatever. But I think the Raiders totally have a shot at being the value defense of the week, just like the Redskins were last week. Yeah, so those are my defenses, and we're sticking to value, and we're sticking with the defense. Doesn't matter whatever you play in DFS. I guess that wraps up our GPP plays. You guys have anything else you want to add?
Nope, that's it for me.
On my end.
If we covered it.
Cool. Let's go on to our bets for the week. We are coming off of a very solid 0-6 week. What do you guys think about that?
I thought you guys said
Melvin Gordon,
and that's why I was making the right picks indirectly.
I think Melvin Gordon needs to hold on to the ball a little bit more.
That would have been our one win. Melvin Gordon could have.
We don't double down. This is why I was saying we don't double down.
Well, let's start with Yush this week because he was the guy who doubled down last week that caused all of us to double down. How many picks are you making, and who is your pick?
I mean, we were pretty good going with a single pick. We did pretty bad going with a double pick. I think if we go with the triple pick, we'll get back to our winning ways.
That's very bold.
I'm just kidding.
That's very bold.
So my pick is I got the over on the Tampa-Tennessee game. Odds Shark has it at 45.5. What does Pinnacle have it at?
45.5.
Okay, so I'll take the over at 45.5 for that game.
I like it.
You go next. You go next. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna stick with the same game, and I'm taking Ryan Tannehill and the Titans to cover against the Bucks. I believe in this Tannehill hype. He is a reformed man with the solid wide receiving core. He's not passing to. I don't know who he was passing to back then, but he's got 2 very good talents in Corey Davis and A.J. Brown. He's got a great running back in Henry. I think he's got all the weapons he needs, and if he shows that he has that scrambling ability, I think Tennessee should be able to put up points, and hopefully their defense can shut down mistake-prone Jameis Winston, who is playing away from home.
Nice. Is that minus 2.5?
Minus 2.5. Yeah, that's my pick for the week. Drew, do you have your pick yet?
Yeah, give me the team that I'm most in on DFS. Might as well stay consistent. I'm going to take the Colts -5 at home against Broncos.
Man, this is going to be the week you regret when Joe Flacco puts up like 30 points, 30 fantasy points on you and 40 real life points.
Sutton will. Maybe Cortland Sutton.
So you got Sutton, but then you got Indianapolis winning by 5.5. So you're kind of struggling.
No,
you're in a conflict of interest right now.
It's not a conflict of interest. I want Indianapolis to win by 30, and Denver will throw the ball and he'll get a bunch of garbage yards.
I mean, he doesn't have a corpse of Emmanuel Sanders to force the ball to anymore. Now he gets an explosive wide receiver in Sutton that he can pass it to. That's got to be worth some points, right?
He's been targeting Sutton all year. I don't think that's going to change. I think Sutton will get 120-ish yards, but they will barely put any points on the board. And the the whole Von Miller pass rush, that Colts O line is beastly, man. They will handle whatever pass rush Vic Fangio wants to dial up. I mean, maybe T.Y. Hilton will be taken out of the game by Chris Harris, but I think that run game is going to do well against the Broncos.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that wraps up our week 7 prediction. Or what
This
week
is
are we
week
on
8.
now? Week 8. Oh, wow. Okay. We're halfway
midway.
through the season now. Yeah. You guys have anything to add? If not, you can send us out, Drew.
I have nothing to add. Just happy basketball season. I'm happy that it's here. We'll be doing a basketball episode very soon, probably sometime next week. It's been another good episode. Hopefully this week we perform, our normal way. I think last week was left much to be desired, but it's been fun. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.
Peace.
See you.